Thanks for tuning in. This is going to be a discussion today about virtual reality. Now, I know we all know what virtual reality is today, especially those younger viewers out there. They've almost grown up with it. But for people like myself, who've been gaming since the early 80s, I would say 1983, 1984 was my first memory of playing a video game. Virtual reality has really come as something that we've been anticipating for so very long that I feel, now that it's here, it's such a momentous occasion in gaming as a whole. I think it's really taken things to the next level, which is kind of on a contrast to how a lot of people are perceiving it at the moment. Virtual reality is obviously in its infancy at the moment. But what I do believe is that it's taken great leaps forward in a very short amount of time. When you look at something like the Virtual Boy, for example, it was Nintendo trying to venture out, do something different. I think they were kind of trying to do something similar to what Sega did with the Sega CD and the 32X. So Nintendo decided to go for the virtual reality route. Now, the Virtual Boy, for any of you who don't know, was... basically, it was just red and black. That's all it was. And it was these very basic monochrome graphics in a virtual reality headset. And you had this kind of slight 3D effect. It wasn't really virtual reality, and you had to literally have it on a stand. And you'd be like that, you know, very static. That was the first experience I think most people had of virtual reality at home. Now, during the early 90s, you did have virtual reality. You had a lot of virtual reality simulators in very expensive arcades in London, New York, etc. Over here in the UK, we had a TV show presented by Craig Charles based upon this one game with very, very polygonal graphics, you know, very sharp vector polygonal graphics. It was an interesting step forward, you know, and at the time when I was 13, 14 years old, it blew my mind because there was these people looking around in a virtual reality headset. They were in a rig. Step forward 20, 25 years, and now we're here. Now we're here in 2018, and finally we've got virtual reality at home. And yet there are some people who still think, well, yeah, no, it's still not good enough. Now everybody's entitled to their opinion, obviously, but I've got to really stand out from the crowd here of a sea of people who have complaints, and I've got to say that I think these pieces of kits, not just this, not just the PlayStation VR, but the Oculus Rift, the HTC Vive, all of them offer an amazing experience. You've also got the competitive streak with all these fans of each particular company. You know, you've got the PlayStation fans, you've got the Oculus Rift fans, you've got the HTC fans. Yesterday I had a go on the HTC, which I got myself, and it's a fantastic machine, great machine, some great games. Oculus Rift, fantastic. PlayStation VR, fantastic. You'll always get these people who will put each one of these down. The reason I'm highlighting this one today is, well, I stream PlayStation games, and I have streamed PlayStation VR in the past. But it was something I've been meaning to talk about for quite a while now, and I feel like we're at a point now where I think people are so predisposed to having everything instantly that I think people don't really appreciate things anymore. Now, in no way am I saying that you have to appreciate this. You know, everybody's got their own opinions. If you don't like it, you don't like it. But I've heard from people and they've said, oh, I'm not too sure about playing virtual reality. Should I invest in it? And my reaction always is, try it out first, see what you think. I believe that once you try it out, you're going to be pretty damn impressed. But you've got these groups of people, specifically on forums online, who will tell you, you know what, virtual reality really hasn't hit it yet. PlayStation VR, you know, it's got its problems. It's not as good as HTC, it's not as good as Vive. Having owned all of these, I can honestly tell you that the difference between them is fairly minimal. You're talking about the whole kind of room spatial awareness with the HTC Vive, etc. But personally for me, I'm looking for something that is slim and comfortable to wear. And as far as I'm concerned, I can only tell you that the games that I enjoy the most and the experience I enjoy the most, for me, the PlayStation VR offers the experience for me that is the most comfortable. Now, does that mean it's the most technically immersive? Absolutely not. Really, the differences in terms of graphics are minimal. I mean, I'm talking about the graphics on some of the games on PlayStation VR are fantastic. I think the detractors tend to pick out games which were testing ground. There are some bad games on the PlayStation VR. I could name two straight off the bat right now. There's the skateboarding game on PlayStation Worlds, which compared to the rest of the games on PlayStation Worlds is terrible. But there's always going to be one turkey. However, you play London Heist, it's amazing. You play the virtual reality ball game where you're moving your head in the virtual arena, it's like being in Tron. It's amazing. As somebody who grew up watching Tron, I get to be in Tron. Even though it's not based on Tron, it was like being in Tron. There are experiences on VR which are catered towards certain people. For example, my elderly parents, they can't really invest in something that's too kind of physical. So for example, my dad tried being in the cage, and when you're going down into the water with the shark. Now my dad tried this. We turned all the lights off in the room. The PlayStation VR headset lit up. He had to go on this. He went down into the cave. He went down further into the water. He's looking at all these beautiful fish. All of a sudden, this shark comes towards him, starts getting a bit nervous, and then bang, comes right at him. I've never seen a reaction like that ever, and it was an amazing experience for my dad because he'd never experienced virtual reality before. And here he was sat in his own front room experiencing this. And I think these are the things that people forget, that virtual reality can give people experiences that they've never had before. Really, when you're looking at comparing apples and oranges with graphics and polygonal rates and, you know, anti-aliasing and all that, you're looking at from a purely fanboy perspective. Whereas most people who invest in these things, whether it be the HTC Vive, most people are going to be investing in HTC Vive and an Oculus Rift are going to be PC orientated anyway. But the people who invested this are people who are families, etc. PlayStation VR for families is fantastic. HTC Vive or an Oculus Rift, yes, families can use it, kids can use them, don't get me wrong, you know. I've seen members of my family use it as well, and they love it. But this is so much more catered towards a family. I feel that that's where so many of the critics are going wrong with this. I think PlayStation VR is gaining ground in terms of popularity because it's building up a really good amount of software. And I think that's another area where I feel PlayStation VR is really leaps and bounds above anything else. I feel that the best way to describe a VR experience is it will give you a feeling of complete immersiveness, but you have to give your brain those few minutes to really kind of invest in where you are. You can't experience VR in a video on YouTube. You just can't, unless obviously you're doing one of those YouTube virtual reality videos where you watch it in real-time VR. But just watching a VR video, it just doesn't work. Because you have to be there, you have to be in the moment looking around. So yeah, that's my thoughts on virtual reality as it is right now. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Leave your comments and thoughts below. I shall be on this very soon. Take care.